Coming up on the show, Washington may be on the verge of reopening, but wallets here in Atlanta are still feeling the pinch. We're going to show you how to stretch that first paycheck if it finally arrives. Also, you think Atlanta's traffic is one of the worst in America? Our Gridlock Guy has a few stats that may make you start tapping the brakes. And it's the museum that tells Douglas County's story, but now it may be writing its final chapter. We're going to hear and learn why the county commissioners chose to end the lease of the museum and what the museum directors are doing to keep it alive. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello, welcome to the show. I'm Jesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their take on today's top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as well. Here's where the nation's longest ever government shutdown stands today. For the first time in nearly 2 months, the House will be in session today and is expected to vote on the spending bill that was stuck in the Senate. The House Rules Committee worked into the early morning hours and voted along party lines to advance the bill. Now, once the House passes it, it will go to President Trump's desk and for him to be signing it into law. Look out over the tarmac of Hartsfield-Jackson now, where the shutdown impacts are impossible to miss. Fewer takeoffs, longer lines, and hundreds of flights grounded each and every day. All this ramping up to Friday's deadline for a 10% reduction in capacity. Man, trying to hope that doesn't happen, right? So we need this thing to reopen. This ripple effect through the skies and the economy, hitting workers, travelers, and airlines alike. And while Atlanta feels the brunt, aviation leaders say this is a warning shot for the entire industry. Joining us now is Tia Manzoni, president of Stella Jet Brands, on what recovery would look like once the government reopens. Welcome to the show, Tia.
Thanks for having me.
All right, for travelers watching, what should they understand about how the shutdown affects aviation safety and reliability, even beyond commercial airlines?
Yeah, you know, in commercial and throughout the government shutdown, we've been seeing some strains before the government shutdown, and having the shutdown just really exacerbated that. So I think what we're looking at now is once the government reopens, it's not just going to go completely back to normal. We still need time to make adjustments. And even in the best case scenario, the airlines have to reposition. They have to reposition crews and planes. We're looking at maybe early December before a new normal would come about.
Wow. Okay. What are you hearing from some of your pilots, dispatchers, and ground crews about this shutdown and how it's changing what they do as far as work?
Yeah, for sure. So we're definitely making some adjustments in what airlines we fly or airports we fly in and out of. But also we know that most likely scenario, you know, the FAA has done these restrictions, and it says until staffing has been fixed. So we have a long time before we actually get the staffing back where it needs to be with these offices, with the TSA, ATC, all of that, before we feel like we're going to go back to, business as usual.
Yeah. How are unpaid FAA inspectors and air traffic controllers influencing safety protocols or scheduling decisions across the private aviation sector?
You know, the FAA is here to keep us all safe. So I think these restrictions have been, a good thing for us. For private aviation, we have not seen as much of an impact as you're seeing in commercial. What we're seeing is the trickle effects. We're seeing people that have to get to their destination by a specific time coming in and flying private on trips that they normally wouldn't.
Do you think this messes with the customers or the consumers' confidence in the aviation system as a whole?
I think it's been that way for a while now, and this definitely does not help. But I do think that it's safe to fly, and I think that the restrictions, although inconvenient, especially around this time of year, just prove that the aviation industry is dedicated to making sure that flying is safe.
What kind of long-term lessons do you think the industry is going to learn from this?
You know, we've had some mass exits the last few years with retirees all across the board in aviation, everything from air traffic control to pilots, and we haven't filled that pipeline fast enough. I think that's been a big lesson in the industry for a while. I also think that passengers are asking for better service, better communication, and I think that that's going to be a long-term good effect from what's happening now in aviation.
Do you see any needs for change, especially on the federal level?
There's always room for change in every industry, whether it's, private or government industry. So, I think there's always room for change, and everyone's always learning lessons, and hearing from, the public just helps us understand that side as well. We're constantly looking at data in this industry, and sometimes the data we need to listen to is the public as well.
Yeah. If you had a chance to speak with lawmakers, right, you got a chance to sit down, talk to them about this shutdown, what would you really say to them about the people who are affected that have to fly the planes every day?
Yeah, I think that, again, I want everyone to be safe. I want us to fly safe. I think they're doing the best that they can right now with what they have, but there needs to be some added precautions and backup plans. We tell people who are flying, plan ahead, have a backup plan, have a backup plan. And I think we need the same thing across, whether it's the government industries, whether it's the airlines or the airports. I think having multiple lines of, backup plans is always a good idea.
Yeah. Was there anything surprising to you or anything that caught you off guard with this shutdown?
We already were a little bit understaffed in the industry, and so with the government shutdown, we've had almost 4 times as many retirees and resignations since the government shutdown as before. And you can't just immediately replace those people. It's a 100-day average hiring cycle for these positions, and then it takes 2 to 3 years to get certified to actually work in some of these positions. So again, I think filling the pipeline ahead of time, having people ready to go is a good idea, because the people that quit, they're not just going to come back. And now we've got a long hiring cycle, a long training cycle before we get back to normal staffing.
Yeah. Tia Mazzoni, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight today.
Thank you.
All right. Let's take a look at our forecast for today, and the 7-day outlook shows that temperatures will be warming up, folks, even starting this afternoon. Even though we started out on the chilly side this morning, with temperatures down into the 30s in a lot of spots, we'll see it rise into the 60s this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. A couple clouds will work into the area by Thursday afternoon, but not going to rob us of the sunshine, nor will it bring us some much needed rainfall. We'll see that move in and out, get the sunshine back in here on Friday, and those temperatures will soar into the 70s, right around 71 degrees. Going to stay that way as we head through the upcoming weekend. We're looking at 74 degrees on Saturday. Sunday will be at 75 after a 54-degree start, and then we will remain in those low 70s as we start the work week next week, with only a small threat for rain by Tuesday. Don't go anywhere. We're back with more right after this. Time now to get the latest on the government shutdown from NBC, Alice Barr in Washington, D.C. And good morning, Alice. It seems like our long national nightmare may be almost over. Walk us through the steps in which we can expect to happen today in the U.S. House. And does Speaker Johnson have the votes?
Right. So it does appear that we're on the cusp of finally seeing a vote to get the government reopened after 43 days now of this record-setting shutdown. It does appear that Speaker Johnson is going to have enough votes, at least according to Republican leadership in the House. They're feeling confident that they're going to get there. It's going to be incredibly tight because Democratic leaders in the House have been urging their entire caucus to stick together and to vote no because of their frustrations about this bill not doing anything to address rising health care costs, extend the Affordable Care Act tax subsidies they've been looking for. In fact, the top Democrat in the House tried a last-ditch effort in a Rules Committee meeting last night to get some kind of extension of the Obamacare subsidy shoved in, and that was rejected because Republicans don't like Obamacare. They've never pretended that they did. So all that said, there's going to be a new Democrat that is going to be sworn into the House today, newly elected, and that means that only 2 Republican House members can defect in order for this thing still to pass without having any support from Democrats. We know one is likely to. Thomas Massey of Kentucky often is a no vote. And there was one Democrat who voted with Republicans in the House the last time they took a vote on this in September. Representative Jared Golden of Maine, conceivably he could cross over if they needed one more to help. But right now, again, there seems to be confidence confidence from Republican House leadership that they're going to get the votes to get this passed tonight. You know, timing, we don't exactly know, but don't expect it to be before the sun goes down.
Gotcha. All right, so it happens tonight. Once the president signs off on the plan, how fast will the wheels of government start turning again?
And that's another huge unknown. We've already heard from the airlines that they say that they cannot bounce back right immediately to full capacity. There were all these cancellations. The system is totally snarled. They're going to have to pull apart the threads to get air travel back on track, which is really important. We also know that the air traffic controllers who have been going without pay and have been so much at the heart of the holdups at the airport, and so in many ways at the heart of this entire shutdown story, they, according to the transportation secretary, will get 70% of their pay within 48 hours after the shutdown ends, but they're going to have to wait another roughly week to get the other 30%. And we don't yet know exactly how quickly the rest of the furloughed federal workers who've been going without pay, how quickly they're going to get their pay as well. And then there's the question of the SNAP low-income food assistance that has been reduced drastically and delayed for a lot of people. Those gears have to get turning again, and there's going to be a lag as well for the roughly 42 million Americans who are waiting for their full November payments still to come out.
Kind of a mess there. Any type of estimate, maybe like once it gets signed, any type of that back pay that we're talking about? Because at some point it was said that some people won't even see any back pay, right?
Yeah, that was a threat that President Trump had made at one point throughout this shutdown. But the part of the deal that those Senate moderates kind of hatched that got us to this point where finally something cleared the Senate and now is up to the House. Part of it was that they would guarantee back pay for everybody who was working without pay during the shutdown. Everybody was furloughed as well. And also it would reverse any layoffs that happened during the shutdown. There was a 2019 law that basically says that people have to be paid back just as quickly as they possibly can. It doesn't matter when your pay date actually is supposed to be. When a shutdown ends, you're just supposed to get the money out the door to those federal workers as quickly as possible.
That would be a relief for a lot of folks. Alice, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for the insight. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We still got more to come right after this. Yesterday, the Supreme Court has extended its pause on full SNAP payments, leaving millions still waiting as Georgian families receive only partial benefits. The program's future now hinges on a stalled funding bill in Congress, with food banks already bracing for another wave of demand. Yesterday, the American Customer Satisfaction Index came out reporting that nearly half of those who said they're greatly impacted by the shutdown said the SNAP was the reason. The overall public sentiment indicates that nearly 1/4 of people in this survey identified delays in receiving benefits, federal benefits, as the primary concern. Let's look a little bit further into this with Rebecca Grapevine, the reporter here in Atlanta on with the trade publication Health Beat. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How did the federal shutdown trigger such widespread distribution in food benefits?
Yes, just to step back for a second, these payments go out every month to folks, and the November payments were stalled. They've been put into limbo because of the shutdown. There's been a long series of court cases over the SNAP benefits since the start of the month. And as you said, right now in Georgia, some folks are expecting partial food benefits to come through over the coming weeks. However, many advocates say that's not enough, that the partial benefits aren't enough to help families, and that there's been long delays in getting these out.
There's a lot of confusion out there right now. What's some of the key takeaways for SNAP recipients right now?
Well, one takeaway is to keep checking in with the state agency to find out what's going on. It's changed rapidly, as I learned last week when I was covering this story and had to update it. Another important message that officials wanted me to get across is that if people do have money still on their cards and they haven't received their November benefits yet, they can still use those funds. So some folks may not have funds, but for those who do, they can go ahead and use those. And another thing people might be interested to know is that about 1 in 8 Georgians use this program. It's about 1.4 million people. So this is a pretty big deal. There's close to 10,000 retailers in the state that accept SNAP benefits. So that can help explain why this has been such a big deal during the federal shutdown.
Yeah, Georgia just began enforcing expanded work rules this month. What's changing for recipients?
Yes. So in contrast to the shutdown and the slowdown in the benefits, which is a short-term thing, this is a long-term change to the program. And the new work requirements are adding groups that will have to meet requirements that didn't have to meet requirements before. And there's 5 groups. There's veterans, homeless people, youth who are aging out of foster care, adults between the ages of 54 and 60, and parents or caretakers of teenagers between ages 14 and 18. So one estimate I saw said that should be about 96,000 people who are going to have to meet these work requirements. And people will start to experience the need to report their work to their caseworkers as the months roll forward here. And that's not related to the shutdown. That's a permanent change to the program.
Okay. All right. Rebecca, you've spoken to families directly affected. What are they telling you about the immediate impact here?
Well, as you mentioned, there's been a demand on food supplies across the city. There have been charities and nonprofit groups that have stood up funds to provide additional food support to people. And one such group, the New Disabled South group, within a day or two of standing up this new fund, all of their funds were gone to send out additional money to families. So we can see how important this is to folks who need that extra help every month in order to get food on the table. When it comes to the work requirements, some advocates are worried that, these pretty vulnerable groups, homeless people, youth aging out of foster care, are going to lose access to their benefits because they're not able to meet the new work requirements.
All right, Rebecca, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate the insight.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Plenty more stories for you coming up after the break, folks. This is The Take, and we're back right after this. Well, your grocery bill may soon change faster than your mood at the checkout line. Dynamic pricing is creeping into the shopping cart, and not everybody's thrilled about that. Time to bring in friend of the show, consumer expert Morgan Ward. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Do you see this as a natural evolution of the market or a sign that transparency and pricing is slipping away from the consumers?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. One thing is that it makes it much easier for the retailer. They're putting up these digital price tags and they can change the price of hundreds of thousands of products in like 2 to 5 minutes. So in that way, it's a natural evolution. Technology takes over and things get easier. But it's also a way of changing prices in response to different market influences. So for that reason, consumers need to be at least a little on their toes, if not skeptical, I would say.
Yeah, is there anything they can do to protect themselves, or even or some benefits that the stores will adopt this as the stores adopt the technology?
Yeah, there's definitely benefits to consumers. So promotions can roll out a lot faster, and discounts, of course. The things that I would do from a consumer perspective is try to keep track of what you're actually paying and what you think you're paying when you're actually picking up the product. So you make sure that matches to what's being rung up. The other thing is that consumers are going to have less consistency in what prices are. So it might be a little harder to track what they're paying for any given product. So something to think about.
Yeah. Turns out the hottest gift this holiday season may fit right into your wallet instead of under the tree. Talk to us about gift cards, suddenly the most popular present this year.
Yeah, so gift cards get more and more popular, and economists would say that money is actually the most altruistic gift because it allows the gift recipient to be able to pick what they want themselves. And 2/3 of people actually say they prefer gift cards to an object. But what is benefit for the giver is that it's a lot easier and that there are less likelihood of returns because the recipient's actually picking for themselves. And there's luxury in that too, just being able to buy something you want, especially when costs are so high. That's the luxury for the recipient.
Yeah, and it seems like it's gaining popularity over the years. Is this more of a short-term reaction, or you think this is going to be a long-term shift of how Americans give?
I think it's been a long-term trend. I think for a bunch of reasons. One is that flexibility, but the other thing is that as consumers prefer to buy experiences over products, this is a way of giving an experience. You can get a facial, you can receive a cooking class or money towards travel. So as we want to give things that you can't wrap up in a bow, gift cards are a good alternative.
Yeah. Well, Thanksgiving is coming up, like right around the corner, and it seems like instead of the turkey being stuff, it's our budgets, right? How should families be rethinking the feast this year?
Well, there's some alternatives now for getting pricing a little bit lower as costs continue to rise and people have been struggling with food insecurity. Some retailers have been responding, like Walmart and Lidl and Aldi. They've been offering lower priced meal packages. So between $40 and $45 for an entire Thanksgiving meal for 8 people. So that gets you down to about $5 a person. And for people who are thinking about how to budget in advance, this might be a good alternative to buying those things piecemeal.
Yeah, that's one. Should we be trying to change what we eat maybe for the meal, or what's the deal? Do we sacrifice the tradition, or do we just go ahead and try to save as much as we can?
Well, that's a good question. Poultry, as everybody knows, has been going up exponentially, especially with the different bird flus. So if you can find an alternative to turkey and you're happy with that, maybe it's meatloaf Thanksgiving. I don't know that it has to be turkey, and that might be a good alternative and a cheaper way to go.
Oh, we'll see. We will see. All right. Thanks a lot, Morgan. Really appreciate you being on.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. All right, what happened to many financially? What happened to many financially? Well, when the government reopens, we'll have to talk about that with a financial expert when we come back. Don't go anywhere. They're going to join us right after the break. If Washington can finally end the shutdown this week, relief could be on the way for thousands of furloughed federal workers right here in Metro Atlanta. Some may soon see long-awaited back pay hit their accounts, while others may not even see a dime for weeks, maintaining the already exhausted financial strain. Let's bring in a financial expert now, the professional Abby Reed, to offer some smart ways that folks can stretch every dollar and rebuild after the shutdown. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How much do you really think people really think about climbing back up when they've fallen financially like this?
I think it's probably one of the things that's at the top of their mind is how do they get back to where they were before this happened, and they had to put maybe a lot of discretionary expenses on hold. They had to maybe adjust their lifestyle a little bit. So I think that this is top of mind for a lot of families. We're hearing it a lot at Reed Financial Group. So this is a really timely story for a lot of families out there.
How do you advise your clients who have to choose between paying rent, utilities, or even debt when money simply just isn't there?
So what we always recommend is having a good grasp on your budget. So what we tell our clients is to have a good grasp on the 2 different types of expenses. So there's fixed expenses, and those are expenses that they're not going to go away. You're not really going to be able to cut them very much. So that's your mortgage or your rent, maybe your car payments, those type things where there's not a lot of wiggle room. And then we all have the discretionary expenses. So those are all the kind of the fun stuff that makes life worth living. There's a little bit more wiggle room on that. So when times are tough and cutbacks have to happen, that's where we're going to go first. What we're also recommending is communicate with your loan provider. So if you have a mortgage, reach out to that company, let them know that you maybe are a government worker and you're not being paid right now, or you've been laid off, because there are a lot of companies that, and even the bank, that can help. They can help you with maybe a bridge loan for some income, or they can pause your payment. So communicate openly with your loan providers so that it doesn't affect your credit long term.
Yeah. Is there an emotional or a mental component to all this, especially with the stress of having to pay or having unpaid bills?
Absolutely. I mean, money is very emotional for all of us. And when you're looking at suddenly maybe not being able to make ends meet, that is incredibly stressful. And then stress obviously can lead to other health issues. So what we're doing, a lot of our job as financial advisors at Reed Financial Group is part counseling, the psychology part behind it, and reminding people that there's a lot out there that we can't control. The government shutdown, being laid off, but there's still a lot that we can control, and also having a plan for times like this. So we always recommend having a financial foundation, which includes things like having 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund, keeping that money in the right type of account, like a high yield savings account, so that you and your family know that when times are tough, we're all going to go through things. And that financial foundation is really important so that you take care of yourself now, but you're not putting your future self at risk too. So having those resources, knowing kind of as a family what you're going to do, and then also just talking openly about what's going on. So, if you have kids and you're not able to maybe go have the birthday that they really wanted to have because you're not being paid right now, you've been laid off, I think it's a really good idea to be open, talk as a family, obviously reassure everybody that this is temporary and that you're going to be okay, but just being open and letting everybody know kind of what's going on.
All right. Abby, thanks so much for joining us, and thank you so much for the insight today. A lot of people depending on that money.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully it comes soon.
Yes. Yes, indeed. All right. All right, folks, what's this shot right here, Doug? What are we looking at?
Yeah, Northside Drive at Collier. There's a closure on Collier just east of that shot. So that's why I got that pulled up for us.
Yeah, it's a common sight that we see brake lights as far as the eye can see, right? It's always like a backup back there. Atlanta's frequent called out of some of the worst cities for traffic. I mean, everybody talks about our traffic like all the time. And then people that don't even live here talk about our traffic because we talk about our traffic. But you took a closer look at a study. Tell us about that study from Texas A&M.
Well, for sure. And maybe the top headline from the study is simply, Chesley, that goodness, I mean, that people misread the study and some things that were true about the nation, like Thursdays being the worst days. They took these headlines and made it viral on Instagram accounts that aren't necessarily vetted journalist accounts or people that just didn't read closely. And they said that was true for Atlanta. But actually, as it turns out, they also said that rush hours were over with. OK, well, hold on a minute. I just sat through this rush hour. We did traffic like every 10 minutes here at 11Alive. And rush hour definitely still exists. But nationwide, what we're seeing, and true in Atlanta, is that the peak, like how different the morning is from the afternoon, it's not quite this, like it's a little more even with the midday traffic. So here's the deal in Atlanta. There still are rush hours. All right, the worst times of day are basically from 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. on weekends. And also Wednesday at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., not Thursday, Wednesday are the two worst hours as far as percentage of delay on freeways in Atlanta. So that's kind of the two main things to suss out. Atlantans also lost, I think it was 87 hours a week on average on the roads. Yeah. Or sorry, 87 hours total per year per average commuter, which you may think that's a low number. Well, that's everybody averaged in. That was about the 9th worst in the nation. But as far as the amount of rush hour delays added on to a normal speed limit trip, Atlanta's only 19th to 21st worst in the nation. And the worst city in the nation for hours lost, that would be Los Angeles. Big surprise. Yeah. Atlanta has 87 hours lost. Los Angeles, 137 hours lost per commuter in 2024.
Yeah, that really looks bad. Now, are they describing a rush hour as something different than we would describe a rush hour?
Well, I think that's generally thought of as the time people go to work. There's this idea, and it used to be like, my gosh, we would all go into town and work and then go out. Well, now there's work all over the city. So you have non-predictive rush hour directions. And now midday traffic ever since COVID has gone up, and also traffic in the off hours and weekends because people just have a more flexible schedule than they used to. So I think that's part of it.
On my days off, I do feel like I'm always asking, where are people going? I mean, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's probably at the beginning of what we consider rush hour. Is the time stretching out on us a little bit?
For sure. Instead of having these big curves that go like this, it's more like that in the middle is a little bit higher. So basically people have gotten smarter. They've looked and they realize, hey, if I go into the office after 9 or maybe try to beat the rush, they get up early and watch us at 4:30 in the morning or something, they can beat those delays. And what does that mean? If they're beating the high delays, that the traffic in those off hours is actually a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And by the way, there are more people living in Atlanta than ever, and traffic is worse than it was pre-pandemic. It's got to go somewhere. It's just not all in those rush hour times. It's a little more spread out.
And everybody's driving.
That's
everybody's driving,
too
right?
much of that.
What's the most misunderstood thing about Atlanta traffic now?
I think the most misunderstood thing is that it's always unpredictable. As much as there are routine delays, anything can happen at any time. At any moment, I suddenly go running into the newsroom, Chesley, red alert, got a freeway shut down. And so you've got to plan your ride before you leave. And that's why we have these reports so often every weekday morning.
Do you think there's anything that could, kind of put a limit on the traffic? Anything we could do?
I think if employers would go back to COVID and realize that a lot of us could work remotely, that would be a big thing. And also people would just drive like there are other people out there. That'd be great too.
You know, I remember that during the pandemic, working from home. That was kind of strange. I never thought that would ever be, but yeah, you're right.
Management, if you're listening, we'll work at home.
You know,
we'll help.
just don't lower that paycheck, right? Just don't lower the paycheck. My friend.
Appreciate you, Chesley. Thank you.
Gridlock Guy on the set with me. Thanks so much. All right. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us up next with How Our Money Matters. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this. Welcome back to the show. Fresh data showing job growth losing momentum. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning to you, Maribel.
Hey, good morning, Chesley.
All right, fewer people getting jobs. It's raising some eyebrows.
Let's talk about it. Private sector hiring declined in recent weeks, according to payroll firm ADP. So that report showed slower job creation across several industries, especially leisure and hospitality. The decline follows a gain of more than 14,000 jobs in September. A wage growth also eased, signaling a possible cooling in the labor market. You know, many economists are looking to third-party reports like ADP's since federal data is paused during the government shutdown. The numbers may also guide, Chesley, the Fed's next decision on interest rates when it meets again next month. The board has trimmed, the benchmark by 0.5 point in total since September, and a weaker jobs market could support the board making one more cut by year's end, Chesley.
Ooh, okay, all right. So what began as a bold hotel apartment hybrid ended abruptly, and now that's leaving some hotel guests stuck in the fallout.
Oh gosh, short-term rentals company Sonder filed for bankruptcy this week, giving some guests just 24 hours to get out. The company's abrupt collapse came after Marriott International ended its licensing agreement. Sonder operated in 40 cities worldwide and billed itself as a blend between Airbnb and hotels. Now, a number of renters have posted online or told news outlets they were sent emails telling them to vacate immediately. Many Sonder staffers reportedly found out about the closures from departing guests. A Marriott statement said all guests who booked directly with the company would be contacted. Some who use third-party sites like Booking.com, they say they were assured of a refund. Neither Sonder nor Marriott have responded to media requests for comment, Chesley.
Okay. Looks like Kroger may have just won the Thanksgiving feast race. They got turkey, stuffing, rolls, dessert, all for less than a movie ticket?
Okay, so Kroger has revealed its Thanksgiving meal deal, a 10-person feast for under $48, because movie tickets are expensive, you're right. It comes with a 14 to 16-pound turkey with all the traditional sides, including pumpkin pie. The grocery chain is competing with rivals like Walmart, Target, and Aldi to attract customers on a tight holiday budget. Department of Agriculture data shows food prices rising faster than overall inflation. In August, they were 3.2% above the same time last year. Kroger's meal deal can be ordered online or in store starting today, Chesley.
Good deal right there. All right. A fan favorite is coming back to McDonald's. We're talking about the McRib, right? Used to be one of my favorites, but I understand there's a catch to it.
Used to be.
Yeah, used to be.
Okay, listen, it resembles a rack of ribs. It's returning for a limited time in select markets. The McRib has rotated in and out of the menu for decades, even after its so-called farewell tour in 2022. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, debuted in Kansas City in 1981. The company chef behind this creation, also was credited with inventing the chicken nugget in 1979. It said he used restructured meat techniques first developed by the U.S. military. The McRib hits most major cities starting Friday. A full nationwide map can be found at McRibLocator.com. There are many in Georgia, including at least 2 in the Atlanta area. Listen, Chelsea, I keep trying. I just don't know. Maybe it's too much sauce. I will tell you this. McDonald's Holiday Pie, that's coming back Friday. I'm into that one. That's like an apple pie with cream custard inside, some sprinkles, some sugar.
Well, maybe. I haven't been in a McDonald's in a long time, but they may force me to come back with these new ideas.
There's always a chance.
Yep. Maribel, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
You got it.
All right. What is the future of the Douglas County Museum of History and Art? We're going to talk about that when we return. Stay right there. The future of Douglas County's Museum of History and Art is now uncertain after commissioners recently voted to end its lease in the historic courthouse building at year's end. The vote a few weeks back was close. It was 3-2 for termination, with the commission's supporters saying that it's a devastating blow to local culture and tourism, while opponents argue that the space is needed for expanding government operations.
I just think that springing this on them like this, with so much material that they have in there, they've got to now go back and find the owners and get all of that out of the museum. I just think this being rushed through, I just really don't see that that's a good look on our community.
This doesn't generate really any revenue for the county. Elections has to have somewhere to go, and right now we simply don't have the funding to build additional new facilities or acquire new buildings, so we need to utilize the assets that we have.
So now it's to become of the museum. Let's bring in Museum Director Suzanne Hudson. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. First of all, talk to me about this museum, how special it is to you and how special it is to Douglas County.
Well, we've worked on it 26 years, and we've saved the building specifically to be a museum. It was going to be torn down when the courthouse moved out in '99.
Mm-hmm. So what went through your mind the moment you learned that the county had voted to end the museum's lease?
I want to think positive. I thought, oh, they got us a new building.
Absolutely, you'd probably be thinking about that, right? Talk to me about the building that you're in now. What makes it unique to the museum?
Well, because it's international style and was listed on the National Register before it was 50 years old, and it is a marble, glass, metal building which is never going away. It's a vault.
Yeah.
The building is a vault.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We heard from the just a little while ago from the board there, they confirmed that no communication had been with the museum on that decision. What has communication been like since that vote?
Not very good. We still have not received official notice, like a letter or an email or any kind of thing. We've just heard it at the commission meetings.
Yeah. They stated that one of the things was that the museum doesn't generate any revenue. What's your thoughts on that as well? How do you respond to that?
I don't think a museum is supposed to generate revenue, but we do a service to the community. We are a welcome center. They need a county welcome center. They don't have one. We are the only welcome center open on weekends. The city's is 9 to 5 Friday, Monday through Friday, and so is the couple of others that are here in our county. Yeah. So we are the only one open in the weekends, a welcome center.
How upset are you by this? All this, how it's coming about. Are you upset, and how upset are you?
Very, extremely. I think I've aged 10 years in the last 2 weeks.
Well, you still look good.
But, thank you. But what we pride ourselves in doing is celebrating our citizens. We pride ourselves in telling our citizens stories. And on top of that, everything that is in this museum has been given to us by our citizens. And they tell their story, and then we tell it.
Yeah.
So we're very proud of that.
Have you started making arrangements, Suzanne, in case something doesn't turn around? Or are you going to try to move to a new building? What's your thoughts now? Where are you going with this thing?
They're everywhere. My thoughts are everywhere. But we don't know what we're going to do. We really don't.
Are you asking for any help from the community, those that enjoy the museum, those that are sympathetic to what's taking place? Have you tried to reach out to any of them?
Yes, we have a great following, and we have a petition out to save the museum. And we're having a citizens rally today about people that are just coming to ask questions and just be supportive of the museum.
Yeah. When is that?
And we are also.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're also an educational facility too, because no school system teaches county history, local history.
When is that rally going to be taking place? Did you say the community rally is going to take place? When is that?
4 o'clock today.
4 o'clock today. Where is it going to be located?
At the museum.
At the museum. Okay. All right. Great. Is there any chance you think that the county could reverse course or renegotiate the lease before the end of the year?
We hope so. We don't know. There's no way to know.
Yeah. What's going to be your argument to stay open to them? What are you going to say?
Well, because we run a welcome center and are an educational facility, and we tell the stories of our citizens. And I just can't emphasize that enough. We, military, entertainers, anybody that has a connection to Douglas County, we celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah, and the community certainly would miss a lot of that history if you guys had to move or even go away. So, Suzanne, thanks so much for what you're doing. We'll be checking back in with you. We're hearing about the rally that's taking place today. We'll check back in and see how things are going.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on. All right. Folks, we'll have a final look at your forecast plus my final take when we return. Well, it's going to start milding up, folks, and I'm calling it a mild up because it won't be a warm up like temperatures in the 80s or anything like that. Today, 63 degrees for the afternoon high. I want you to keep in mind that we should be around 66, 65, 66 degrees, so we'll get close this afternoon. It was a chilly start, temperatures down into the 30s, so yeah, you may need to start off with a coat, but once you get to the afternoon, a jacket may do you, or a sweater may do you. 68 will be the high temperature on Thursday. I think we'll have a few passing clouds, but that's about it. No rain or any precipitation coming from those clouds. And then we hit the 70s as we head into Friday. You're looking at mostly sunny skies. 71 degrees will be the afternoon high. Staying in the 70s as we head into Saturday and Sunday. 74 degrees Saturday. Sunday will be at 75. 75 this time of year, yeah, that's up there. That's up there. The only thing missing from this 7-day is raindrops. We need the rain, folks. Now that the cold air is gone, right? Certainly we can handle some rain. We need it. We're just over 5 inches down for the year, so the rain would be welcome. It's only a 20% chance by next Tuesday, and that means only a few of us, maybe 1 or 2 of us, could see some rain in the forecast area. So we'll have to break out the old rain dances for those of us who can do that and see if we can get some more rain in here. All right. Did you see it? Did you see it yesterday? Many of us had an opportunity to see those breathtaking colors in the sky that are commonly referred to as the Northern Lights. Yeah, the light show reached as far south, places like Texas and Alabama, Florida, and even right here in Georgia. Some somewhat rare sight to see. It really depends on the strength of the storm. That's right, a storm. The bright colors in the sky are caused by eruptions of energy from the sun that interact with the Earth's magnetic field. The storm, or the Space Weather Prediction Center, monitors those eruptions, and the forecast was a G4 on the geomagnetic storm scale. Now that's the second strongest level, which made those disruptions really visible all the way down here in the south. And so it's not just a beauty in the sky, though. When you get a G4 storm, those disruptions coming from the sun, it brings potential voltage control problems or GPS navigation errors or even intermittent issues with radio and satellite operations. So it does have its issues. But for us, it's just beauty in the sky. You get those bright reds or greens and sometimes even some purples in the sky. You can't see it really in the city because of all the light pollution that we have, but in the outlying areas, a lot of folks sent us some pictures. I want to say thank you to all of those who sent us the pictures. Really appreciate that. Maybe seeing it today, but after that, I think it will go away until the next G4 storm comes our way. Enjoy today, folks, and enjoy the beauty.